The production of this program is made possible thanks to the support of the following and viewers like you. The numbers are staggering. Studies consistently show that 20 to 30% of prescriptions are never filled, and approximately 50% of medications are not taken as prescribed. According to a review in Annals of Internal Medicine, it's called non-adherence, and it is 100% preventable by the people who it afflicts. The Annals of Internal Medicine estimates non-adherence accounts for approximately 125,000 deaths and at least 10% of hospitalizations, costing the American healthcare system between $100 and $289 billion a year. Former Surgeon General C. Everett Koop put it bluntly, drugs don't work in patients who don't take them. Well, enter Lynda Brown-Ganzert, the founder and CEO of Curatio, an online platform that not only helps patients keep the prescription schedules they are given, it also provides them with access to a myriad of resources and networks that support subscribers to the service in more than 104 countries and in 15 different languages. I invited Lynda Brown-Ganzert to join me for a conversation that matters about an online platform that reaches out to people who may feel isolated by bringing them together. Lynda, welcome.
Thank you.
Tell me about this platform.
I've spent pretty much my entire career using technology to connect people, and it wasn't until I became a patient myself, I went through a complicated pregnancy, and I went, oh my gosh, this is a really isolating experience. It's hard to find information I trust. It's hard to find other people that are going through it, and there's some stigma and isolation there. You're not going to post on Facebook that you're having these challenges, and so you know, as an entrepreneur, I started thinking about that, and then I started thinking about whether other people had the same challenges, and it turned out that a lot of people do. And so here we are, you know, with a fantastic team. We've built a platform that helps people connect to other people that are going through the same thing, and helps them with everything they need to do on a day-to-day basis, that whether that's learning about their condition, getting support, medication reminders, programs, live events, and that social piece, which is so important and is often so missing when you're going through a health challenge.
Well, you actually talk about isolation, that you were feeling isolated. How does the platform then put you, who, let's say you're having a challenge with a challenging pregnancy, as you said, how does this platform then put you in touch with somebody who has a similar experience?
Well, this is where technology does work really well, and technology certainly shouldn't be used for everything, but in using some AI and machine learning, what we're able to do is look at the user in terms of not only what condition they're challenged with, but who they are, because that's just one aspect of your life, of course. And you know, quite often we tend to look at patients, well, if you have diabetes and you're in the diabetes group, but we don't look more fulsome in terms of, well, that person with diabetes may be an avid gardener, might have a comorbidity, a secondary condition, may have recently been divorced or is raising kids, or has these hobbies, is located in this area. And so we take what we call a one-to-many approach to connecting people that really looks at who they are as a person. And so just because you share a disease condition doesn't mean you're going to have a lot in common. So we increase the odds of making that match by looking at the things that you have in common.
So let's say you come into a group like this and you're like, okay, how is the group going to help or support me as I work my way through the health challenges associated with, well, dealing with diabetes, especially, let's say, type 1, but also type 2. It changes people's lives. So how does the app help them start to make those adjustments, both physically, but also emotionally and psychologically?
Well, it is different for every person, of course. It is a very personal experience. And so for some people coming into the platform, they find huge comfort from just being with others that understand what they're going through. And whether that's having a chat or being a part of a group or participating in a program. You know, for others, they have jobs that they want support in doing. So jobs like, can you help me remember to take my medication? It might be a very complex medication schedule. It may be an infusion project or a product, or require a needle, an injection for someone who has needle phobia. You know, can I get some support in overcoming that? So it really depends on where that person is. For someone who's newly diagnosed, of course, you just said it, you know, your whole world changes. And so, you know, as this new diagnosis comes into play, like, what do I need to know? What should I be doing? And how can I learn from others that maybe are further along than I am?
What do we know about improved health outcomes by people who are connected versus those who are isolated?
Yeah, it's so interesting because there are decades of research that shows that when patients, not only patients, but when patients, people, and their families have social support, everyone does better. There's been some interesting studies in looking at parents who have children that are critically ill and how the parents having that social support actually improves the outcome of the child as well. So there's a lot of research that's been done in this area. What's been difficult is how do you deliver that at scale? So that's what we help with is sort of making that connection and doing that at scale in a way that's very personal.
I got to get you to hang on for a second while we take a quick commercial break. We'll be right back. The production of this program is made possible thanks to the support of the following and viewers like you. So it's not just for the patient, but it's also for their support group as well, their family and their support group. The support group can be involved and connect with others who are also in that similar situation where they're supporting somebody with a condition. And I can imagine that when it comes to people who have a partner or a parent dealing with dementia or Alzheimer's, this becomes fundamentally important.
It really does. And, you know, this caregiver tsunami that we hear about a lot is well in play. And so that caregiver experience, not only do they feel isolated and wanting to, you know, share that experience with others, but quite often the caregiver's health outcomes can suffer. And so it's important to look at, you know, that holistic sort of circle of support for everyone and try and get everyone the best outcomes.
So I have a tendency, of course, because of my stage in life, to think, well, this is for adults. But what about children who might be dealing with an affliction? Does this network extend to them?
Yes. Well, in the near future, yes. We just finished a really interesting project with Dr. Alyssa Antle at SFU and her team around children's experiences during COVID and what a child version of our platform would ideally look like and feel like, what it would do. So we've got some really interesting research findings from her team that we are considering in terms of rolling that out for kids. We have also done some work in young adult survivors of cancer, and so they often fall through the cracks in graduating out of a pediatric care model into an adult one, but they might be 18 or 19, and you know they're sort of grouped in with other people that have mortgages and 2 kids, and that's not where they're at in life. So we've also found that demographic really valuing from that connection where they're connecting with other peers that have been through the same thing. And of course, you know, especially for adult survivors or young adult survivors of cancer, you know, there's a whole, you know, quite often whole period of high school that they've missed. And so they feel very isolated and disconnected from their peer groups. So we saw some tremendous results in that area as well.
So do you envision expanding that to siblings of children who are afflicted? Because I know a young person whose elder sibling was diagnosed with diabetes, and the younger sibling went, well, nobody's paying any attention to me, and I don't know what I can do, and that person didn't have a network to reach out to. So I can see that this can expand into, you know, that area as well, because so much of navigating our way through health issues requires that everybody be healthy and feel supported.
That is a very interesting idea. So the platform can currently do that. You can have multiple roles, but that use case in particular is one that we haven't looked as in depth in. So I might have to bring you onto the product team here. But that's a really good suggestion, and we tend to look at more in terms of caregivers, but you're absolutely right. That the other siblings within that family are going through their own experience as well.
So what else does the platform provide?
Oh, well, a whole bunch of things. I mean, first of all, we built it from the very beginning to be privacy compliant.
This is a big issue.
It's a big issue. And so, because you're working with people and their health conditions and around the world, there's certain things they don't want to disclose publicly. And so that privacy has always been in our DNA. It's very important to us that the user not only feels safe and secure, but they also know that they own their data. And that was a founding sort of principle of ours, is that this is very much
privacy
about,
is paramount.
It is,
yeah.
right? And we're seeing that increasingly. So, we sort of start with that as the privacy compliant. We're also regulatory compliant, which means when we're working with specific therapies, when we're working with pharmaceutical companies, specialty pharmacies that are supporting a patient population on a specific therapy, it means we can also do things like adverse events and pharmacovigilance.
So give me more information about how the platform helps pharmacy companies get a better understanding of how the drug is affecting the patients who consume that drug.
Yeah, absolutely. And this is another point of connection we don't often talk about, but it's a really powerful one, because that relationship between patients and the therapy providers often been really fragmented or broken, or they haven't even actually been allowed to talk to each other.
Yes.
And so what this does in a way that is regulatory compliant and safe is provides the patient with the support that they need. And so I'll give you a case study. We were working with a patient population that in the first 3 months, a number of them experience a very common side effect, a headache. And that can be treated, and if you can get through that first 3 months, then you start to see the real benefits and improvements of that. But that first 3 months, 6 to 12 weeks is rough, and so a lot of people fall off or abandon therapy. Right, and so they'll never reap the benefits. And so, we really leaned in terms of developing, content and programs and support and tools and a dashboard that would help them see, their progress towards that, and had just fantastic results in terms of people not only staying on therapy, but obviously benefiting from the therapy, which is, what you said earlier is,
right.
100% of patients are going to benefit from the therapy if 100% of the patients aren't taking it properly. So,
or they don't complete the entire prescription. Like there's a big drop off at a certain point when patients will say, I think I feel fine now.
Yeah.
But they don't complete the course.
Yes.
And this can create challenges as well. So does the platform help them get over that?
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. It's we often say it's like having your running buddy, show up at your door, right? And you're much more likely to go out for a run or walk. And if nothing else, you're going to have that social point of connection. You're going to have a chat or come in for a coffee or something. So it's using technology to deliver that same thing, where someone say, "Oh, I'm having a really tough day. I don't know if this is working, or I don't know what I'm supposed to do next." And you can see the community lean in and say, "I felt the same way," and here's some tips and what helped me, or we deliver, a content piece that's particular to that moment.
So a couple of years ago, I was up in Caslow doing some work with the community pharmacy paramedicine, community paramedics group, part of the BC Ambulance Service. And they created this fantastic service where patients were being monitored from the ambulance station, because they had blood pressure cuffs, and they would do a variety of things, and they type it all in, and they were being monitored. Well, this one woman that we were profiling, we go out with the paramedics to just pay a visit, and the paramedics told me something really interesting afterwards. They said, because of this program, we realized this patient wasn't taking their medication. And we said, why aren't you taking your medication? And she said, well, I can't afford it. I either eat or I don't get the medication. But what was fascinating is they didn't say, well, you have to take the medication and not care. They said, well, let's see whether or not we can advocate for you or we can go to work for you. And they found a program that paid for the medication and that she was able to eat. Is your platform able to provide that kind of support to patients who find themselves in that situation where, well, I don't know how to tap into programs or resources or whatever to be able to get the prescription?
Definitely, and it's interesting. There are what's called patient support programs that are set up, so that using the example that can help people not only on board but access therapy in an affordable way. It's something like 10 to 15% of those programs are utilized. So there's like 90% of people that don't know about those programs or aren't utilizing them or don't know how to navigate them.
Because they're complex, they're challenging, and if you're also dealing with that particular health challenge at the same time, you're like, it's too much.
Oh, exactly.
Yeah.
I mean, you're overwhelmed with everything you have to figure out. So, yeah, absolutely helping to navigate, curate the information. We try very much to, we've got a whole team of amazing writers that really are using plain language and sort of step by step, this is what you need to do. The community managers help with that in-community navigation as well, in terms of, much like the paramedics, like, okay, well, there's this program, there's this, and helping people navigate, because it is, not only are you not feeling well, but you have to now get a PhD in this condition immediately, right? It's a lot to deal with.
You got to get you to hang on for a second while we take a quick commercial break. We'll be right back. The production of this program is made possible thanks to the support of the following and viewers like you. So you started this in British Columbia, and in my introduction I went, you're in 104 countries. What happened? How did it just manage to take off like this?
Well, our mission statement is no patient alone, and so I think it really does start from there, and this amazing team that has circled around that mission. And so this is a really big global problem, and as we see continued rise of chronic conditions, that we've seen continued gaps between the economic divide. We see geographic divides in terms of what patients can access in one country versus another. You start to see this swell of people that are connecting, especially in, you can imagine something like a rare disease where I don't know anybody else, with this condition. Bringing that, that it may only be bringing two people together, but the power of that, two-person connection is pretty huge. So, as we see globally, technology scales, technology diversifies, technology also levels the playing field, right? So that everybody's got a mobile phone, and the majority of the world has a mobile phone in their hand. For the majority of the world, that is their computer, right, is their mobile phone. And so, you can access people and provide them with support in countries around the world. And that's really how it's grown, is just making one by one, making those connections.
So I'm wondering, and I don't know whether or not you're moving in this direction. So I am of Scottish heritage, which means I'm a ginger by genetics, which is a gene mutation. And I then think, okay, well, can I find out what potential challenges I might face? Am I able to connect with people who might be distant relatives that I don't even know about, who could say, well, this happened to me, and here were resources? Like, is this a part of what this overall community is about?
Yeah, it's such an interesting area. So, in the entire genomics area, of course, and then there's the pharmacogenomics, which is based on your makeup, which therapies are going to work best for you.
Right.
We're doing a really interesting project right now with Molecular U, which is a BC company and does genomic testing, and we're doing a project together around long COVID. And this is another group that has felt very isolated and is, trying to figure out, they have varying symptoms, of course, of long COVID. And so by matching, some of the genomic background to what their social experience is and building really a collaborative environment for research, we're hoping to advance and leapfrog the understanding of long COVID. So that's an example of how those pieces can start to come together in a really powerful way.
Mm-hmm. So what does it take to get started? Somebody says, okay, Lynda, I'm interested, but what do I need to bring when I first log on so that I can get the best out of the platform?
Mm-hmm. Well, a majority of the work we're doing is actually white labeled, so it's getting bundled with the therapy. So as you start that therapy, we're right there.
Oh, so they won't necessarily even see that it's you.
Yep.
Oh,
yeah,
okay.
Yeah, we're the engine, sort of the social engine behind a lot of it. There is Stronger Together, which anyone can download in the App Store, and you're welcome to, both for iOS and Android. And that's a simple app download. So just like anything else, you download it, you meet Mary, our AI agent. She helps you onboard, and away you go.
Do they have to show up with particular information, or does it just start, you can start to populate it over time?
Exactly, yeah. We start with some beginning information, which we try and keep that really short so that we can start recommending matches. And then as you're using the platform, we're understanding, of course in a de-identified private way, we're understanding what you need and starting to then deliver more refined matches, not only in terms of people, but content and programs and tools.
So one thing that a viewer may be asking is, does it cost anything?
It doesn't.
It doesn't cost anything?
It doesn't cost anything.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
Maybe that's one of the great gifts of this, that you're able to deliver this service to people without them having to feel the pinch of like, how do I make this work?
Exactly.
How did you manage to do that?
Well, it goes back to no patient alone, right? And, it was looking at, listen, people have so much to deal with. You get that diagnosis. You don't need to add on to the burden of dealing with that. And so in white labeling the platform, we work with customers that are essentially sponsoring that for the patient communities.
Well, that's fantastic. Thank you so much for coming in and giving us a glimpse into the platform, where it's at now and where it's going. Congratulations.
Oh, thank you so much. Thanks for having us and for your interest as well.
My pleasure.